You are becoming the queen or the king of your physical body and your energy field. You are owning the space. You are owning your alignment to your soul. You are owning the plan that your soul made before you embodied.
Hello and welcome to New Earth Awakening. Today we'll be talking to Lisa Barnett. Lisa is an internationally recognized author, teacher, and healer with over 30 years of experience in the spiritual healing field. In the mid-90s, she was called by the Akashic Masters to share their profound insights. First, in her own life, and then with clients around the world. In 2005, Lisa took a deep dive into the Akashic field, launching her on a truly transformative journey. This immersion led her to found the Akashic Knowing School of Wisdom, where she is dedicated to bring the clarity, healing, and ancient wisdom of the Akashic Records to a global audience. As the founder, facilitator, and teacher at Akashic Knowing, Lisa shares the unconditional love, guidance, and wisdom of the Akashic Masters. She accesses this wisdom through sacred prayers given to her by the Akashic Lords, and empowers her students to create their own personal connection to the records. Lisa is international best-selling author of several books, including her recent one, Akasha, Spiritual Experiences of Accessing the Infinite Intelligence of Our Souls. We'll be speaking about her books, her journey, and so much more. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I am excited to be here, join you, and share all of this beautiful divine wisdom with you and all of your listeners. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being here. So, I am totally thrilled, and I would like to start, as always, by you sharing your path. I know that your path is totally amazing. It starts at 3 years old, knowing that you're back in this body, and then through life and chronic illness and healing center and being contacted by the Akashic Masters. And so how does this fit together? How did the puzzle pieces start coming together in your life?
Yeah. So for me, it was, of course, a lifelong journey. I know many people have conscious awareness and can remember kind of before when they're very little. Often they're 2, 3, 4 years old, and then we often will forget that again. It actually happened to me also. So I was aware that I was trapped back in a body. I wasn't particularly happy about it. I spent quite a bit of time telling my mother I wanted to go home, right? But luckily, that little baby brain went back to sleep, and I had a normal childhood until I was 13. And one of my soul sisters, I had two very closest soul sisters, best friends, right? Through school from the time I was 5. And at 13, one of them went into the hospital with severe headaches, and she had a brain tumor. And they operated, and she went into a coma. And when I heard she was in a coma, my first kind of reaction and realization, or maybe it was my second or third, but it was, I should be able to heal her. I'm a healer. How come I don't know how to heal? I don't know how to heal her. What am I supposed to do? And so I was kind of reawakened at 13 years old through this experience. And sadly, she passed but it was a blessing for me to awaken again to a greater truth that I had come to remember. And that truth was that I am a healer and I am here to help bring healing, wisdom, energy, and guidance back to humanity. So I started studying spirituality at really 13, 14 years old and went through high school reading all the weird books I could get my hands on. This is a long time ago. This is like the 60s and early 70s, right? And I continued with philosophy at university. But when my second best friend died, I said, I'm done. I'm not going to do whatever it was I came to do because my sisters are gone. I have no one to do it with. So, we all have interesting journeys, but they often take these kind of similar paths of awakening and sleeping and awakening and sleeping. Some of us sleep until we're 40 or 50, and then we have a trauma or a drama. We may have an accident or an illness. We may realize that we're completely on the wrong path and it's time to do something different. And so I was lucky because, again, I could go to sleep and wake back up again and still remember in a way. But when I woke back up again in my 30s, I actually started studying healing. I had really bad chronic fatigue, and my acupuncturist said, I can help you heal your body, but not your soul. You need to find a way to talk to your soul. And so I did. Honestly, I started studying. Apparently my soul has a habit of yelling at people. It's a bit of a pushy kind of soul. So I started studying healing. I studied healing for like 8 years with an amazing teacher. And then every once in a while, that soul aspect, those Akashic record keepers would literally yell at me. They would give me amazing information for my clients. They would, um, really the expanse of the information that I got in those downloads from the Akashic Records was very different than what I got as a psychic intuitive energy healer. And so I'd think, wow, what the heck? But again, if you think back into the 80s and 90s, no one was really talking about the Akashic Records. Back then it was like, oh, I heard Edgar Casey wrote about that, back in the 40s or something. Um, but it was not common knowledge. And so eventually for me, I could hear this voice and I finally, after a few years, kind of figured out who the voice belonged to. Oh, who am I talking to? Who are you? What is this story? And they started to explain everything to me. They explained that they were record keepers. They explained that the energy of the Akashic field had been pulled away from Earth during the Dark Ages around 1000 AD. And so they said, we need your help. We need you to assist us to re-anchor this energy back on Earth. We need people embodied to anchor it physically, energetically in this third dimensional world of our planet, right? Of this human world. And so I said, sure, right? Would you say to some big booming voice? Okay, I'll help you. And so it was all a little crazy and amazing. And I learned so much from them. And so I would just continue to ask them questions. And, now over the last 30 years, I've had all of this time between my own records. After working with clients for quite a while, they said, we'd like you to start a school and teach other people how to do this. And so they said, we will give you all the information you need. And again, okay, what do you say to these etheric Akashic record keepers? I said, all right, you give me all the information, guide me step by step, and we'll do it. And so that has been, of course, my soul path and purpose. for most of my life. So I feel very, very blessed to have the gift and the ability to connect to the Akashic Records and really hear them and be able to receive all of this information. But one of the things they told me back then, way back then, they said, having access into the Akashic Records is everyone's birthright. And this is why we want you to start a school and teach people so they can access their own Akashic library. You are all ancient and wise souls. And when you can access your Akashic library, then you can see it and feel it, remember it, re-embody it, bring gifts and talents forward. So there are so many gifts for you when you learn to access your own Akashic records.
Wow, that's really amazing. So let us start exactly with that, with the library of your soul's journey. So you have described that the access is granted by, if you are vibrating at a frequency of 500 at least, which is unconditional love, according to Dr. Hawkins' map of consciousness. And you also said that it was pulled from the earth in the dark ages because it was being misused. It was used for benefit of the self and not also benefit of others. So my question is, how does this tie together? How can someone access the Akashic records that are vibrating at 500 if you have an intention that is low vibrational? And how could it be misused? And what are we learning out of that so that it won't happen again?
So what the record keepers did was they gave me what we call 5-step wisdom prayer system to help people move from their normal energetic state. So you don't have to know if you're vibrating at 500. You don't actually have to be vibrating at 500 already. You may be living with some fear, some judgment, maybe you have some self-doubt and most of us on this planet have levels of shame or blame or guilt, right? So what the record keepers did is they gave me this 5-step system to help people to actually move into the vibration of the Akash, which is really usually between 5 and 800. Again, you don't need to know I don't know that that's particularly helpful for us, except for the real idea is that doing everything you can do to raise your vibration will help you align more fully to your own soul's plan, even just to your heart, to your higher wisdom. And so raising your vibration, moving out of, fear and shame and guilt and blame, helps us to start to realign with a higher level of wisdom, a higher earth. So the record keepers have given me this system. The beautiful gift to me is that you don't have to meditate for a year or 10 to get there. You don't have to do a lot of things before you take my workshop. What I find is useful for most people is to have a little bit of experience in meditating, to do some of your own personal work, especially forgiveness, because forgiveness really helps you transform old karmic patterns and release lower vibrations like that shame and guilt. And so I would say that most of the people who are called to this work are already on a spiritual path, working on themselves. And that's important, right? Because we heal ourselves first, and that ripples out to humanity. And so when you take one of my online workshops, and I teach them many times a year, you will receive the 5-step wisdom prayer system. I also teach about a half a dozen guided visualizations, energy tools that the record keepers have given us so that we can also be assisted in multiple ways to clear other people out of our physical body, energy field, auric field, to start to own our own space, to truly be the sovereign of your body and your energy field, to energetically start to align much more again to your higher self, to your soul, to your soul's plan, to the Akashic Records. And I do that with my hands because energetically we're moving up, right? Your higher self hangs out around the 12th chakra, just above your head. That aspect is the aspect of you, which is part of this life story. The Akashic Records is part of the quantum field of source. And that holds the energy and the information of who you've been throughout all time space continuum. So not just this life and this soul plan, but really all of you. So phenomenally useful in your life as you go forward. I've been working in my records again for over 30 years, and I'll never stop because I can always ask, is it in my highest and best interest to, have this business partner, to be on this podcast, to connect with this person, to write this book, right? Because everything I do, I receive information and guidance and downloads from the Akashic field.
Wow. Yes. Exactly. Awesome. So, how? So it could be misused before, because people don't need to vibrate there. They just need to know basically the 5 steps, and then they can like do it. But basically, what do we learn out of this? Well, what would the Akashic Keepers say that we learned out of this, like collectively?
Learn out of being
Of
able
the
to
dark ages, of being able to access it and then misuse it. What did we learn?
What we really learned is that integrity is a huge piece of creating a life that is really in alignment to your soul, right? So integrity is, first and foremost, but again, compassion, forgiveness, integrity, all of that is what helps us. Those are all higher vibrations, right? Those are, 300, 400, 500, up into love. And so what all of that is doing is we're raising our vibration. We are aligning again to the higher energies and light and wisdom. So it actually makes it much easier to create and manifest the life, really the whole life that your heart desires, right? We're not just manifesting money. Often if that's your only story, then you're probably not quite in alignment to be manifesting. So you may or may not be good at it, because often manifesting is about your heart and the alignment to your soul's path and purpose. So what we learned is that integrity is of utmost importance, and we teach this in my 5-step wisdom prayer workshop, because I teach you to access the record, your own personal records only, period. We have 2 12 plus hour workshops. Course 1 and course 2 equals Akashic self-mastery. The record said it is important to master your own Akashic records first, to understand who you are, the plan your soul wrote, the areas and aspects and realms of the Akash that you can visit and work with and within, before you start mucking about in someone else's Akashic records. And so they do not have me teach people to open the records for you or your friends or your family. Go muck around in someone else's Akashic records with no experience, right? So they really talk about integrity. And the important thing is that in integrity, you know what you're doing. You understand your path. You have done your own healing work. And that is so important. So we teach Akashic self-mastery first. And then I also do train people in it to become certified Akashic consultants. But the record keepers actually asked me when they said, we want you to teach people to do this for others because it's so important and so healing. It's important in the world right now when there's so many challenges that there are many Akashic record readers that can help you, but they want us to really know what we're doing. And so to be a certified Akashic consultant with Akashic Knowing School of Wisdom, you do a year-long training and you do 75 readings before you can be certified. So you don't go just wandering out there charging people for things you don't even understand, right? So it's a kind of interesting thing. They were like, no, we want these steps. It's important. I teach a very simple 5-step wisdom prayer system. But as my consultants know, as they're beginning, as they're reading their first client or two, as they're just starting to read each other in the workshop where they're learning to open the records for someone else, it's a little scary. It's daunting. You don't want to mess up somebody's records or give them misinformation. Right? So it's very, very important that we are always in our highest integrity. And that will really be showing up as we're creating the new earth.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So, yeah, it's about living according to your values. So the first thing that for me was very important was to find out what are my values and how can I embody them fully so that they are really my values, and therefore they also become basically my boundaries, my energetical boundaries, kind of, right? So that the boundary doesn't need to be some wall. No, it is just a soft, airy thing that just goes with values. How is it for you in your life?
So the Akashic Record Keepers, of course, have given me many, many tools. And so one of the tools I teach my students is called the Rainbow Shield. But the important aspect, which is what you're saying, is we learn to fill our own energy field, our physical body, our energy field, our auric field, with our own personal highest soul energy, beautiful golden light and energy of our higher soul. Really integrating and more fully embodying the soul. And so, with that done, we become very solid beings, and then we activate our rainbow shield, which is actually just strengthening your auric field. We all have an aura naturally, but most of us don't ever focus on it. Many people don't even really kind of know what that means or understand that. And so when we add these um, layers, the natural layers of the aura, the layer of red and orange and yellow. And, so we're really just activating and strengthening our aura. So we're really making ourselves solid beings of light. And that is a divine shield, right? We're not building a wall. We are becoming the sovereign. You are becoming the queen or the king of your physical body and your energy field. You are owning the space. You are owning your alignment to your soul. You are owning the plan that your soul made before you embodied. And so you are then in alignment, which again makes it so much easier to be in your heart, to feel caring and compassion and forgiveness for those around us, because we are strong and clear in our soul's energy. So it's a beautiful way to create boundaries and to align in a higher sense to your soul, and then it makes it so much easier to access your own Akashic records.
Wow. So let's speak a little bit about purpose, which to me equals like what makes your heart sing. What makes your heart sing is usually your purpose, right? So this universe usually is based on mastering the level of unconditional love. Let's put it that way. But there are also other universes based on other themes and topics. So, can you please give us a little bit of insight into how that, what makes your heart sing and your purpose, and that being basically the theme of this universe, ties into how other universes have other themes and how it plays out there? What is the difference?
So, what I notice is that this world, right, this earthly plane, we come here to learn and grow. And so, what the record keepers often say is that your purpose is actually to understand and actualize your soul's plan. And that plan is complicated because most of us write 50 or 100 soul contracts with other souls to support them, to finish karmic patterns, to be in relationship, of course, that can be supportive, but it can also be about soul growth. So we don't have one purpose. Many of us are here with with a lot of different gifts and talents. So those lead into your purpose. As a matter of fact, one of the 4 books I've written is called Your Soul Has a Plan. And that literally is very much about understanding this complex plan that you wrote. So about the contracts, about the purposes, about misalignment, about trauma in our lives. And so I love it too, because when the record keepers gave me this book, they also gave me like reflections, um, exercises for reflections, and then healing prayers to help to heal and clear your field. So I've written another book which has 73 healing prayers in it that I've channeled from the Akashic Records. So these books are here to help and support people. So here you get to learn and understand your plan and your purposes. And this one's a great book to assist you to do a lot of healing and clearing and raise your vibration. So all of my books are available on Amazon. And so you can find them there. But this is the way they speak about our purpose. It is not particularly simple, and it is not a job description. You may have a gift, like mine was very much to be the healer and, of course, to share the Akashic records. but the interesting thing is that the healer came first. Um, and so other worlds and dimensions, I mean, there are many galactic worlds. There are many star seeds who are embodied, who have these missions to help end war on Earth, to help us to awaken. They're here to hold greater light, to help raise the vibration of the planet. Our dear Mother Earth herself, Gaia herself, is divine feminine being. She is a sentient being, and she is awakening. And so that means that as she awakens, we too will awaken. You can't not, in a way. It would be like if you were in a car going 100 miles an hour and you didn't want to go that fast, you'd still be going 100 miles an hour unless you jumped out, right? Same thing with Earth. So people will jump off because they don't want to awaken. They don't want to go through this experience. They may be stuck in their old stories and their pain and their trauma. And so they will, unconsciously mostly, choose to leave. So, we will have a very big shift over the next really 5 years, but I'm sure over the next 50 years, things will continue to shift as we create a new Earth. And there are many beautiful, beautiful galactic beings energetically here, physically embodied, and I believe soon they will be physically showing up in their starships. So I can't wait for that date.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be sooner than later, like 2027 or something, the latest. You know, I've been already preparing my how do you call it? My postcards or something, you know. So welcome, brothers and sisters. Woo!
I love that. Yes, yes, so beautiful. And yeah, I really feel that so much is going to change between now and 2030, and that has been predicted over a very long amount of time. And some even of the old ancient writings hold these kinds of dates and visions. So, yeah, it's an exciting time, and just I think it's so important that we know, no matter what garbage we see out there in the news and it's very much about waking humanity up, right? Triggering us to become more awake and more proactive in holding greater light, in clearing our own energy pain bodies, in clearing our triggers and our buttons that set us off so that we are raising our vibration, and learning things like to access your Akashic Records automatically raises your vibration because it brings you into the quantum field of pure love and peace. So the records are a gift in so many different kinds of ways.
So let's talk about our free will to change our contracts anytime. Could you please explain how we do this?
Mm. Well, you're adding any time, so I don't say that because it's actually not that random.
Go
So,
ahead.
yeah, so it's important to realize, and again, I apologize, but I want to be clear because sometimes clients will come to me and they'll say something like, I want to delete all my soul contracts. Well, the truth is that if you deleted all your contracts and completed all your karmic patterns, like you just erased everything, you would probably not live. Your soul would have no purpose. That is part of its purpose. That is why we are here, is to support other people, to learn and to grow, to finish these karmic patterns and help other people do it. And so literally we would be like, oh, I have nothing to live for. We might just dissipate and evaporate. I don't really know what would happen, but the other thing that does sometimes happen, and people do experience this, is it's kind of like that immediate enlightenment where you just everything goes away and you're just in bliss. And there's nothing much to do but sit and be in bliss for the rest of your life. And that's beautiful and powerful also, because every human that is holding that energy of bliss and light of 800, 900, 1,000, that is beneficial. But again, it kind of takes that human aspect away. So we don't want to delete all of our soul contracts, but it is important to understand them. So a lot of the clients that come to me for an Akashic reading and healing session will say, do I still have a contract with my spouse or with my significant partner? We've been together for 25 or 35 years, but I don't feel that it's still valuable. I feel like we've gone separate directions. Is that contract still valuable, viable? Is it still in place, right? Because we don't want to create extra karma, right? We want to support and complete our soul contracts. Um, But it'll be interesting because then I will go into their Akashic Records. I will ask about the soul contract they have with this partner. I'll ask often some very helpful questions like, is their partner, are they from the same soul family? Was there ever a soul contract with this person? Because again, we have free will. You could marry or be with whoever you want, contract or no. So sometimes we are in a relationship that we do not have a soul contract around. So that's just another kind of interesting bit to know. Sometimes they're complete. The thing you came to do was to have and maybe raise that family. Well, that was done 10 years ago. That contract may have been complete, 5, 10 years ago. And what the person is now noticing is they've been growing apart, growing apart, growing apart. They have nothing in common. They're on their spiritual path. Their partner would rather be fishing or watching football, whatever kind of thing. One wants to travel and the other doesn't. It's not about right or wrong. It's just different. So that contract is done. What we can do energetically is upgrade that contract. And literally in the quantum field, when we update something and upgrade something like that, and it's complete, it literally dissipates. It goes away, right? So it is done. Now, sometimes I'll have a client, maybe they've been married for 10 years and they have 3 kids and they're still not, they're having issues and are not particularly in alignment. But the record keepers say they have very strong soul contracts with the children to have this family. And so it becomes important that they find a way that these 2 adults go to counseling, try maybe some energy work together, spiritual work together. It may be even a more uh, going back to religion, finding higher wisdom so that they can align maybe in that space. But that going to a therapist, going to counseling, all of those things are important because that contract is not done between themselves and with their children. And so they'll say, no, we can energetically upgrade it to this moment in time. But this moment in time is saying you still have that contract with those kids. And it's important that you work on your relationship with each other. So we don't just get to delete it and go on our, merry way and think all is good. Because what happens when a contract is not complete, we will find other ways to complete it. And often they're not the fun ways, right? So you may find that you end up with more challenging. You may be in a marriage or a relationship where your new partner has a bunch of kids and now you're trying to be a step parent and finding that uncomfortable. And you're trying to juggle the 2 families and thinking, what was I doing? What was I thinking? Right? So, yeah. So just, releasing something, blowing it up, erasing it is not always the highest. So understanding before, and that's why, again, the Akashic Records can tell us this kind of information. And we can understand that and make moves around that.
Yeah, so that we can take the highest possible path, basically. Okay. Wow. So let's speak a little bit about the power of the word. We have been touching on that a little bit. And I have been a little bit like reflecting on that and our language, because I know that we're moving into an era of telepathy where language eventually will become completely unnecessary. Yoo-hoo. But but until then, we will still be speaking. And so the question begets, like, there is this kind of dualistic illusion going on here on Earth. And we have words like good and bad. And it's sometimes easier to describe something like that because you get to talk about the taste of an experience in a very short kind of way. Or we say, for example, the sun rises. Well, we know it doesn't rise, the earth is moving, right? but there is this collective consensus about what that means. So this dualistic language and this kind of very, yeah, metaphorical language, like the sun rising, can sound a little bit weird slash judgmental. So what is your personal take on that? And what do the Akashic Records keepers say about this topic as well?
Yeah, beautiful question. So what they say is that again, as we raise our vibration, as we release a lot of the lower emotions that we have, um, most of us born into, grown up with, right? All of these aspects, part of part of the process of creating a new earth is for each individual to do their own personal work. So we start to move out of judging people. Right there is huge. We start to realize that we don't need to use those judgmental words because things are not right or wrong. They are not good or bad, right? They are not black or white. So as we start to realize and disengage from kind of the words that speak in that duality, and we start to come to a place of love, really is kind of the different energy when you're living really in your heart and in a space of pure love. A lot of the judgment just melts away. And then we start to get a little bit more conscious of our language because it's a 2 or 3 step sort of process. One is doing a lot of work on yourselves because the world has been this way forever. And most of us has been, I mean, unless you're um, a 1-year-old just learning to talk, and hopefully you have conscious parents who can help you with languaging. But when you're rethinking this in your 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s, right? It's like it takes a while. It's a bit of a process, and that's perfect, right? Everything is just divine right order. And we start to realize things are not, oh, that was bad, that was wrong, I'm so sorry, that got screwed up. It's like it's divine timing. It's fine. I know, I understand, I completely believe that things happen in divine order. So it is a process for most of us to start to move out of this very dualistic languaging and try and think about things, excuse me, in a space of greater love and caring and compassion and kindness. And to me, when I realized that every human is truly an infinite soul of light, no matter how they're acting out, no matter how they behave, in that body is a divine spark, is light. And so we, at that moment, immediately are able to start to forgive whatever behavior we may be challenged by. We can start to understand that this divine soul is having whatever karmic experience that they may have chosen to learn and grow from. So it is a process. And if we can support them with love, kindness, compassion, and forgiveness, it's much easier for them to start to change and shift. So as we raise our vibration, what I find is that either the people around us raise their vibration also to match us, or they go away. They go find other people who match their vibration where they're comfortable. And that's again just perfect divine right order. And so we just kind of let it be. And many light workers notice that in this process of their spiritual journey, that as they are raising their vibration and they're feeling more light and they may be feeling more joy and bliss or grace or ease, they also often notice that some of their friends have disappeared, that they don't contact them anymore, or they may notice that they're having a bigger challenge with some of their family members. And and clients will come to me and say, you know, should I, keep pushing? Should I keep going to family events? Is it really in my highest good? Do I still have a contract with these people? And sometimes we don't. Sometimes that contract is complete, or you do not always have a soul contract with everyone in your family. So, again, understanding your personal Akashic records, your personal soul contracts, your karmic patterns, what you planned to learn um, and grow around and share with humanity, having that information is life changing, right? This is why we say this is really empowering and transformational wisdom to access the Akashic records, because it gives you that gift. You can stop feeling bad about not going to family gatherings if that is not part of your soul plan, if those contracts are complete, right? So they're really kind of lovely things for some people. It really allows them to feel okay when they say, I'm not coming to family holiday this year. It's very uncomfortable for me. It is uncomfortable for everyone. I don't feel it's in anyone's highest good. I love you, but maybe I'll not see you again for a while, right? And we find ways to have these conversations with our family members, but it can really change our trajectory because we're freeing ourselves from kind of being held back by some of the lower vibrational energies, held back by old contracts that are no longer viable, held back by energetic cords or connections that it's time to release and to let go of and move forward. So it is a important time in history to understand these things and start to move forward on your highest soul path.
Yeah, and you're touching on a very amazing topic, which is basically you can love the soul, but you can dislike basically the personality.
They are different things, right? The soul is not the personality. The ego may really take over in some people. Some people have chosen to have, different sorts of personalities or egos, again, often to work through old karmic patterns, and they want to learn. Or they may be, which is also an interesting and important way of looking at both sides of the coin. um, you may have a person in your life who pushes all your buttons, right? Who maybe have mental challenges, may have, addictive patterns, may be abusive, all of these things. They may be in your life because you wanted to learn and grow around that challenge. You wanted to be the forgiveness, and it has helped you to awaken to that higher truth and to be the forgiveness. So the record keepers always say forgiveness is one of the main paths on the road to healing and completing karma.
Yeah, during my automatic writing, I wrote that forgiveness is my path towards enlightenment. So, and I guess it's for a lot of people like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I teach. The record keepers have given us a very beautiful forgiveness prayer. And what I love about it is it touches on you, of course, forgiving anyone who has ever hurt you. So that is huge and important forgiveness. But it's also important to know and forgive ourselves for hurting other people, right? We often do it very unconsciously, and we sometimes do it with a little bit of a mean or angry streak. So we sometimes do it consciously, but that forgiveness, forgiving ourselves for hurting others, is so important. And then, of course, forgiving ourselves for hurting ourselves, because we're often very hard on ourselves, right? So that is also so important. So, three levels, three layers of forgiveness in the Akashic forgiveness prayer that the record keepers have given us. And they say this truly is the path, to healing, to higher love, to awakening, to enlightenment. I completely agree, and so do they.
Thank you. And what about forgiving ourselves for giving our power away?
Right? All of those things, right? We have a lot to forgive ourselves for because we often want to blame ourselves and be angry. And, why? I mean, that was one of the things that I experienced when I was in my 20s because when my second best friend died in a car accident, and I was so angry with source, with the divine. How dare you take my second friend away? How can you let these children die? I'm not doing whatever you want me to do, right? I was very, very stubborn and kind of like, no,
Strike!
yeah, right. I am not doing it. And so, I walked a different path for a good 10 or so years. And after when I kind of woke back up again, started back on my healing path and becoming a healer and working in the Akashic Records, I said to the record keepers, I said, oh my gosh. I mean, I was so awake at 20. Now I'm in my 30s. Did I totally screw up, right? Did I blow it? I could have been probably a spiritual teacher 10 years ago. And really the lovely thing about the record keepers is that they just laugh. They're just pure love. They're pure light. They're very funny. They were like, that's so silly. You wouldn't be who you are now if you didn't have that experience. It's like it's all planned. It was important for you to have those challenges, to forgive yourself, to have these experiences, to do everything that you did. And so that is all the aspects that make up who we are in this moment. And so forgiving yourself for whatever it might have been that you are judging that you have done that was good or bad or right or wrong, just let go of all the judgments. It's just all pure divine right order.
So you're touching on two amazing topics, ego, and the second one is this quantum field where the Akasha is and the keepers as well. So let's start with ego and then go into the field. So like what I've noticed is there is this saying that goes, truth without love can be hurtful, right? But then I was reflecting on that, and I was also going through my, remembering things and all of that. And I asked the question, like, let's take Maria, Mother Mary, and Maria Magdalena, for example. When they were alive, women were not supposed to say basically anything at all, because if they did say or do anything that a man could judge, they could be even stoned on the street, right? So I was like asking myself, like, if this saying would be 100%, then Maria Magdalena and Maria would have been able to speak their truth with love because they were unconditional loving. And nobody would have ever done anything towards them. But that was not the reality back then, And I was suggesting that the ego can judge things and project a lot, even if the most loving person in the whole world would be saying that. So what's your personal take on that? And what do the keepers say about it?
Yes. So the way the record keepers are talking about it is they really are, vibrational differences. So again, you could have a saint talking about something that's, beautiful and loving and in so many, kind and caring ways. But somebody who is at a very different vibration, say a person who feels a lot of anger or fear or shame or blame, they may read into, right, because they're in, it's almost like these are, um, different worlds. They really are. We're all here at that moment in a group, but they're living in a different reality, and they're hearing that person say something different, right? And so that will trigger their shame, their hurt, their fear, and they will want to throw stones, even though the person was giving a very loving message. And so it's much more about vibration or frequency than about any almost reality, because reality is, you're living in your matrix, I'm living in mine. We all have our own realities. And so that's the important thing. When we raise our vibration, we are creating a higher frequency world. And in that world, things kind of get lighter and easier and brighter and faster and just more supportive as we're going through our life. So one person can be having a beautiful, easy life, and their neighbor may be having an awful time, right? With all sorts of terrible things they're judging happening in their life. And we're like, oh, I live in this lovely little neighborhood, right? And your realities are completely different. It's your personal vibration and the world you are creating.
Exactly. And, in my opinion, that's exactly how gaslighting comes to be a theme or a topic for anybody. Because if someone is living here and someone is living there, basically both ends are going to be feeling gaslighted in their own way, because one is telling a reality that is like, oh, look at the angels. And the other one is like, what angels? Here are only demons, and it's like, okay. Funny thing. So, and the other thing that you touched about was about, what was I saying?
Quantum?
Quantum, the quantum field, yes. So most people experience it as unconditional love, kind of, or in this life between lives, regressions and all of that. Like it's unconditional love once they come into the quantum field, And in my own experience, it was more of this mega funny kind of thing that you were talking about with the keepers, that you started being like, oh my gosh, I could have been a healer 10 years ago. And they were like, come on. Joke. So what is your personal experience? Do you experience it more like unconditional love, or is it for you more like funny and party and let's do this?
For me, it's everything. It's all of the above, because my experience is that, and what the record keepers have told me for years, and I've kind of been continuing to work on, is that the Akashic Records is part of the information arm of Source, or information arm of the quantum field. And so my experience is that when I use the vibrational key to move into the records, this part of the 5-step wisdom prayer system, I move into the quantum, into the energy of love and peace and ease and compassion. And so energetically, it feels like that. And really, the beautiful thing is, I'll often ask my clients when I open their records and bring them into this quantum field with me, I'll say, what do you notice? And I'm going to say that probably 90% of the people say either love or peace. Some people are like, oh, expansion, which I also love. But the love and the peace are very, very present. So that is there. And then we start to access, again, pieces and parts and realms. So if I'm talking to your record keepers, I know, I hear that your record keepers love the fun, the joy, that funny aspect, right? So your record keepers are funny. No, my record keepers are loud. So they're not so funny. They literally yell because they want me to do all of this stuff. And a lot of it is about the Akashic Records and the write another book. It's time to do this and have an Akashic conference live in person and go do it. So they're always bossing me about with pure love. I feel the love, so I laugh. But I literally, this is kind of a funny story. I was teaching a workshop where I was teaching people to do Akashic readings. And so during this workshop, everybody was paired up. They were opening the records for their other, partner. And one of the students had to open my records because we were an odd number. There wasn't an even number of students. So she opened my records and she was kind of sitting in the energy. I could feel the energy. And then she started to cry. And I thought, am I dying? What's wrong? What did they tell her? Oh my gosh. And I said, what's wrong? And she said, they're yelling at you. And she was so sweet and so kind. She was like, oh my gosh, they're yelling. And it made her cry. And I just laughed with compassion. And like, they're just loud. They're just loud. They just have a lot of things they want me to do. But anyway, so these are kind of some of the experiences, but then you're in this energy of quantum and you move outside of time and space and you can go back and see lifetimes that you've lived and reclaim some of those gifts. And we do Akashic soul retrieval where we can retrieve splintered aspects of the soul and those gifts because they splinter through extreme trauma, right? Sometimes extreme and painful deaths and things. So we can reclaim that splintered aspects of the soul along with the gifts and talents. We can truly remember and feel who we've been. And a lot of that feeling sense, that like being able to see, feel, almost step into a past life energetically and know you truly were a spiritual teacher or maybe a shaman in South America 2,000 years ago, or maybe you were an acupuncturist in ancient China 3,000 years ago, or you were part of the ancient mystery schools in Egypt or in Persia, right? And you can feel that, right? You feel the love, you feel the wisdom, you feel the energy, and we are energetically reclaiming it into our bodies. And so it's so powerful and beautiful. And again, these are the reasons that the record keepers want me to teach everyone on the planet how to access their own Akashic records. So,
That's awesome, Lisa. Well, I wish mine would gel a little bit, because we're always having fun, and I'm like, okay, when does the word come?
practice, practice, practice. That is one of the things the record keepers say with, accessing the records. Sitting down, using the access key, right? Open that door, hang out in the vibration of peace and love and humor, whatever it is. And then you kind of build the energy in the Akashic field for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, do some meditations, do some guided visualizations. I teach all of this I have an upcoming 3-day workshop that will take place in June, and I'll have another one in September and then the next winter, right? So I teach these usually about 4+ times a year. So, I teach this whole simple system so you can do it with ease and grace and some practice.
Awesome, Lisa. So let us talk a little bit about the soul of Mother Earth. I don't know if you can access her a little bit, if she has a message for humanity right now.
Hmm. Yes, she does. So she is saying, we are awakening. We are truly on this ascension path. And hang on. It will be a wild ride. She says, I love you. Stay safe. Stay guided and connected to your soul. Everything is truly in divine order, and we will create a healed, healthy, empowered new earth for the new humanity.
Thank you very much, Lisa. And the last question is your highest vision, your personal highest vision for this new earth.
Oh boy. Love, joy, fun, ease, grace, community, connection. It just feels like, we'll heal a lot of what's happened. I see the children that are at this point coming now, and most of them who are under 10 or 20 years old, they will remember and bring forward a lot of new inventions, ways for us to heal our air, our water, our food systems, our medical systems. But we have to redo, kind of unbuild and recreate these systems so there is equality for all. And that really is what I see happening over these next, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. I don't know how long, because we have free will. Biggest challenge is that we're humans in human bodies. But with the help of Mother Earth and her awakening, I know that we will do it. And it will be done with love and beauty.
Lisa, thank you, thank you, thank you very much for sharing your wisdom, your love, your insights, and also thank you to the Akashic Keepers and Mother Earth for being with us and teaching us as well.
Thank you. It was a joy to spend this time with you. So many blessings on everyone's journey. I hope to see you all in the Akashic Records soon.
And we will be posting the links below so that you guys can find Lisa anytime.